My name is Lucia Stach. I am a Chief Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art Collections at the Slovak National Gallery. Today I'm welcoming art historians Jerome Bazin and Joanna Kordiak at the Slovak National Gallery, where we are going to present their new project called Revolution. Now let me say a few words about the two of them. Jerome Bazin is an associate professor at the University Paris-Créteil. His fields of work are art and architecture in the post-socialist countries from the perspective of social history of art. He has published many books and articles on this matter, for instance, the book Realisme et Égalité in 2015, about Eastern Germany, and Art Beyond Borders in 2016, about artistic exchanges in communist Europe. Joanna Kordiak is an art historian and curator at Zachenta, National Gallery of Art. Her main research area is 20th century Polish art. She focuses on post-war period and is an author and co-author of numerous exhibitions. For example, The Map, Artistic Migrations and Cold War in 2013, Cosmos Calling, Art and Science in the Long 60s in 2014. Just after the war in 2015, The Future Will Be Different, Visions and Practices of Social Modernization in 2018. And she's also an editor of their accompanying publications. I must proudly add that Joanna is also a co-curator of the solo show of Stano Filko in Zachenta in Warsaw that we curated together. Now let's start with the project called Revolution. As has already been said, the research of the curators has started more than 2 years ago. The first conference on the subject took place in Warsaw in January 2020 under the title Cold Revolution, Central and Eastern Europe Societies in the Face of Socialist Realism between 1948 and 1959. Recently, the book Cold Revolution, Central and Eastern European Societies in Time of Socialist Realism was published in January 2021 at Mouse Publishing. There are 30 interesting thematic text contributions in the book, structured in few perspectives by the editors, Joanna and Jerome. And hopefully, the international exhibition at Zachenta Gallery in Warsaw will be installed. Due to the pandemic, it was a few months postponed, so now the opening is planned for May 25th, and it should last till September 2021. Along the exhibition, there will be an accompanying program, including academic events such as series of conferences and screenings about the key issues of the exhibition. It is organized in Zachenta in collaboration with few partners with the help of Visegrad Fund. So the partners are National Film Archives in Prague, the Hungarian National Gallery in Budapest, and of course, Slovak National Gallery in Bratislava, from where we are broadcasting our talk. So I would like to pass word to Warsaw, to Joanna and Jerome, and let us enjoy their presentation of the Cold Revolution.
Yeah, I can start by saying a few words about the title and about this main word in the title, revolution. Revolution refers here to the transformation of the societies. We are really focusing on social issues, and revolution for us is a way to present the radical social transformations. So what we call industrialization, urbanization, forced transformation of peasant life, of villages, new roles for women, disparition of old elites, and apparition of new elites, all these kind of things that totally change the society. So it was a transformation of society as a whole, but also, and it is important for us, for each individual during this time, it was a period of self-transformation. And about this word, revolution, we wanted also to add this adjective of cold.
Yes, a cold refers, of course, to the geopolitical context of Cold War. Although at the time the term was not used in the languages of Central and Eastern Europe, but most of all it refers to the context of hard dictatorship, to the climate of political freeze of Stalinist and post-Stalinist era. So by associating these two terms, cold and revolution, we asked the question about the degree of real involvement of the whole society in the revolution of the 1950s. Enthusiasm and reluctance, hot passion, and cold distance. We asked the question about real revolutionary energy in this context.
If we want to sum up our curatorial ambition, what we want to do, we can say that our first goal is very simple: to show images that are not so well known, images that are very often in the storages, and to take them from the storages and to present them in an exhibition. And the project is also original in other ways. It gathers different countries, 6 countries, now 7 countries: Poland, East Germany, Czechoslovakia, so now Czech Republic and Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria. So that's a strong feature for us, this comparative dimension between the countries. The project is also original because it gathers different mediums. We have fine arts, painting, graphics, but also elements about architecture, a lot about photography, about movies, and also design that is important for us. It's not very original to do that in an exhibition today, but for this topic, for this period of time, it is not so usual to compare the different mediums. And that's how we can present generally this project. Yeah.
I must add that the number of works is about 400. So maybe let's say a few words about the structure of the book and of the exhibition. The main section of the book and the exhibition are about the celebration of workers, celebration of working class. So we show the images of workers as new bourgeois, new elite. Like, for example, we can see that in interesting portrait of worker from Nowa Huta by Walerian Borowczyk, the reversal of social hierarchy and also the new way of presenting the topic of work, which is not only limited to physical toil, but also includes intellectual effort.
Yeah, we can also quote further topics in the book and in the exhibition, like the new relationship of workers to consumption, to objects that they own or that they were supposed to own. Another topic is the new relationship to education. That was really important at this time. Professional formation, but also more generally the education, cultural education. And another topic is the question of the conflict. It is really something that has been very interesting for us. The conflict against dictatorship, of course, but also the conflict inside the working class. The conflict between old people and young people, the conflict between people coming from the countryside and people coming from the cities, the conflict between men and women. As we said, it was a time of huge transformation from society, of redefinition of hierarchies, and in this context, there have been a lot of tension, of conflicts between individuals in these new societies. So that was also one topic that is really important in the book and in the exhibition.
But we present also the transformation of landscape. So how socio-economic transformation, so industrialization, urbanization affected the landscape and the way it was presented. We are also interested in new urban landscape, of course. And finally, in the book and in the exhibition, we show exchanges with other part of world, relationship with workers from abroad, like Mexico, China, North Korea, but also West Europe.
Maybe we could move a little further. I would like to ask you about the geopolitical framework of the project. Why these countries? What's behind in geopolitical sense?
Yes, it is a question that we are thinking about from the very beginning of the project. So the geopolitical frame, it's what we call today Eastern and Central Europe. So it is not a presentation country by country, and our topic is not how art participates to the construction of the nation, of the reconstruction of the nation after the war. We know there have been a lot of great exhibitions on such topics, so art and nation after World War II. And it was important during this time for socialist realism. But we would like to approach other topics, and we also would like to give the possibility to this object to be presented outside their national context, and that is something we would like to promote this possibility, or maybe we can even say this freedom that we give to the object to exist outside their national context. Of course, there were a lot of differences between these countries, and there still is a lot of differences. There still are a lot of differences, and inside each country there are also differences between regions. We don't ignore them. We don't neglect them, but we consider this space, this huge space of Eastern Central Europe, as a field of observation. That's how we approach this space. For us, it's a field of observation to compare different situations about what we were saying about this social transformation. In this huge space, we have a wide range of different situations, different cases, and different social configuration. And for us, it is relevant to consider this huge space. And maybe we can also add that when we did research in the different countries and in the different regions inside each country, we found interesting objects in every region. And so it invited us not to do spatial hierarchy, not to divide the space between interesting spaces and not so interesting spaces, or modern spaces and backward spaces. We really want to consider every kind of every part of this area, and it is important also to think about the specificity of this area.
And the period that you're interested in is the 50s, and there's of course the tendencies of socialist realism due also to the political situation, and also as an art historical tendency that is part of this period, and that is of your interest, but you put it slightly different. So could you tell us more about the socialist realism as you use it in your book? Because also art historically, the Central and Eastern Europe is still written. It's an ongoing process. So how do you see the socialist realism in your concept?
Our goal was not to redefine the socialist realism or discuss is that or this image should be considered as socialist realism. So there have been many discussions about this in the 1950s, of course, but it seems to us not very productive today to come back to this discussion and play the role of ideologue, art critics. So our goal is not to label the object and not answer the question if it's socialist realism or not. Some of chosen images can be called conventional socialist realism, as we can see, for example, in painting by Endre Domanowski, a Hungarian painter, but some other can be called rather margins of socialist realism, including different variations and personal appropriation. What we can see, for instance, in a painting by Andrzej Wróblewski, Hans Matthias Tolch, or of course Ladisław Guderna. So we would like to draw attention on the aesthetic value of this object, on their form, without using artistic labels, especially these two ones, socialist realism and modernism.
Yeah, it was also something that we constructed progressively, this way of dealing with images, of describing the images, without speaking of socialist realism or of modernism. We would like to offer something else.
Mm-hmm. Which somehow is connected with the art history of the Central and Eastern Europe, and it's going to be, I think, a productive contribution to thinking of this period. Could you tell us about your audiences? Like, what is the aim of the project? Who are you talking to? Because also the reflexivity and the communication is quite a subject in your book. So I would like to somehow give you back the question of who is looking, who should be listening, who is could you tell something about the various generations that are listening, or about the Eastern and Western audiences? How are they going to be addressed?
We have selected images that we think are beautiful, images that have a visual, a formal quality, and because of that, because of this formal visual quality, we think our interest can be shared with different audiences. And the exhibition can be interesting for visitors from Western Europe, from Eastern Europe, from older or younger visitors. It is really an exhibition because of this visual, aesthetical quality, an exhibition that is open to a very, very wide range of people. Of course, when we speak about this visual quality, it is a little bit disturbing because these works of art come from a Stalinist past, from a period of dictatorship. And we understand that it can be uncomfortable or disturbing to say that these images have a visual interest, a visual value. When we say that they are beautiful, that they are interesting to look at, we don't value the political context. We just give value to artistic creation. And we want in the exhibition to give some elements about this political, this social context. But of course, we want, it's not the goal of the exhibition to give value to this dictatorship of proletariat, of course.
Yeah, we can focus a little bit on this, on how do you think your project can change our thinking about art and visual culture in the 50s?
Probably people will be surprised with the images that we present in the exhibition and in the book, because they are not the usual images that we show when we speak about this period. They are not the iconic images of this time, and as we said, it is our first goal to present images that are not so well known, and what we like to make with this exhibition, to promote with this exhibition, is so to give an opinion of this art that is less stereotypical than it can be today, and to show that images from this time are not so clear. To say it simple, we have selected precisely images that are uncertain, that are ambiguous, and we like this kind of uncertainty, this kind of ambiguity in the image of this time. And we think it is also your question about how we deal with the audience. What we present to the audience is images that lead them to look at them, to look at the images, to come in front of them, to look at them, to take the time to look at them, and that's we would like to promote with this exhibition, and
Yes, and one consequence of that is our sensible approach to these objects. We would like to stress the sensuality of the creations of this period, especially in architecture, interior design. But we can find also this sensuality in other images, in the painting, for instance. And this sensuality seems to us a very important element to make this art closer to people and more desirable.
Yeah, and it's also important for the exhibition today, because it is worth looking at them today. And if it was looking at them, it is also because they have this sensual aspect, this sensual visuality, and that's what we present in the exhibition. Yeah.
But we finally would like to show image of the society of this period with their whole complexity. So behind official facade, we can find some chaotic, contradictory process. Similarly, art is also complex. So that's what we would like to say with this exhibition.
Yeah, images are not clear. There are different ways of looking at them, different meanings, that's as you said, societies were complex, and so in consequence, the images were also complex, and we can make this complexity understandable and visible today, or at least we would like to do that.
Yeah, I like the word desirable that you have used, Johanna, because yes, it's not always our desire to know the truth or to present the truth. And with this project, I would say that you are going to integrate the desirable and undesirable, the light and dark facets of the period's art and visual culture, which I think still hasn't been done. There were a lot of cuts done between these two sides of it, but nevertheless, we haven't seen the whole picture as you are trying to present, which I find really interesting.
About this question of desirable, we have to be clear. It was the art of the dictatorship of proletariat. And again, we take very seriously this political context. We don't put it aside, and we don't want to say, let's just look at the picture without considering the political and social frame. On the contrary, it's the opposite. We think the better we know the political, social context, the better we can see the images. Understand and see the images. But of course, when we show images that are related to the dictatorship of proletariat, promoted or conflicted, but at least they are related to this dictatorship of proletariat, we don't want to promote dictatorship of proletariat, of course. We don't want to give it value. We think it is possible today to display them, to look at the image, to see why they are interesting, politically, socially, visually interesting, and without valuing the dictatorship, of course.
Yeah, so you brought an interesting perspective of the phenomenon of time and its perception in the post-war dynamics. I quote from your text in the book now. Time is an essential component of any revolution. It flows faster than usual. Everything changes at a rapid pace. In the official economic discourse of the 1950s, there were many expressions related to speed. There was talk of acceleration in the first phases of planning, of mobilization, and the fight against time, end quote. How does the change of time perception influence the artists and their work, according to you?
Yeah, many artists were involved, were considering this issue of time, of acceleration, of transformation. And when we said revolution, in the word revolution, there is really this idea of acceleration. And it was also for every individual, the self-transformation. It was related to this the quick transformation of each individual. And for the artist, yeah, they could make it visible in a very illustrative way, like in the painting "The New Times Have Begun," a painting which presents an opposition between the old slow world, the old slow peasant world, where work is very slow, and the other side, the new peasant world with machine, with tractor, and where work is pretty fast. So it can be very illustrative in some images, but it is also a preoccupation that is really linked with the images themselves and how they were produced, and we see that very well with the movies. We have several contributions in the book about movie. We will have a lot of movies in the exhibition, and of course in the movie, time dimension is crucial with the montage, and it's an image that lasts and that have a temporal dimension. And we see in the movies of this period, we have several examples of this acceleration, not really acceleration through montage, even if it is sometimes the case, but it's more urgency in the way of constructing images and cinematic images. This obsession of time that is visible in the content, but also in the way the montage was made.
Yes, but on the other hand, we are also interested in works where time seems suspended in some way. For instance, the painting by Andrzej Strumiło, Our Land, from 1949, about Polish migrants after war, new arrivals on the so-called recovered territories. It's strange because it's about movement, about displacement, about transformation of these people, but at the same time, it's very contemplative. Time seems to have stopped. It seems to be timeless. This image creates his own way of articulating the past, the present, and the future.
Yeah, and that's why time is key issue for us, because we have this contradiction between the obvious acceleration, the demand of doing things quick, and at the same time in works of art we have this timeless presentation, and where time, as you said, seems suspended, and we find this contradiction pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting, and maybe I'd love to ask you a more subjective question. Could you perhaps present some works that are your favorite in the period of the 50s that you present in your exhibition?
Of course, it was very difficult for us to,
We
to
love
choose.
every image.
Yes, because there are many works of art that were kind of discovery for us. So, but we have chosen the two covers of our book.
Yep. Can present.
which seems to us very complementary and representative for the whole project. So the first is a photography from the collection of National Gallery in Bratislava, of course. So photography by Karol Kalej about women looking at the sport event, it's a Spartakiad. It's very typical for this period, but at the same time very rich. It's an image of mass mobilization, of propaganda spectacle, and related to the collective dimension of the communist in the communist societies. And these demonstrations were supposed to visualize the unity of the society. And the main character here is a woman seen from behind, and it's a point of view of an individual. What is crucial for us? In the exhibition, we try to adopt different points of view. We try to multiply and juxtapose different points of view. This is very important strategy for us.
To go from the collective to the individual, and in this image we see that very well. We have both the collective experience and the individual experience.
Yeah, and I can also see the female figure being the hero, even from the back, but it's apparently a female figure, which is also a topic in your book. Yes, the role of women.
Yeah, of course, in the 50s it was a very important issue, this question of women. But the images, we can say it's two different visions of women. Women in the urban women, in this cultural activity, and this main character seen from behind. We can assume maybe she comes from the countryside. We are not sure, but she wears a scarf, and most often women from the countryside wear scarves. And one other, so it is uncertain. We are not sure who she is, and we like this uncertainty. And one other question is how old she is. We don't see if she's young or if she is older. And we can also say that women with scarves were rather older women, but we are not sure.
Married. They were rather married.
Yeah. Okay. But we like also what is unexpected is an individual point of view of a woman who is maybe from the countryside and maybe older. And that's an individual point of view of this woman on a supposed modern event with the Spartakiad. So the image is pretty rich.
But we have also another.
Yeah, the other image, so that the other cover, the book has two covers. It's a cover by, it's a photography by Tibor Anti that is called Summer Evening. And it is also an image that is quite rich. It is related to social issues of this time and related to these social groups that were particularly promoted at this time, women and children. We see a woman and children. It is also an uncertain image because we don't know what social groups they belong to. We don't know if they are from the working class or from the middle class. We didn't speak at this time from middle class, but they can be also from the new elites at this period. It is impossible to say that. And of course, the most striking element is this image, is this huge black circle that is a gas storage in the suburb of Prague. And it is used by the artist, by the photograph, to have this very powerful visual effect a huge part of the image is occupied by this black sun. Yeah, it is really like a black sun, and it makes also the image quite uncomfortable. It has something melancholic or even disturbing, and definitely something cold. This expression, it fits perfectly with the title Cold Revolution. But it is not clear because the scene is quite ordinary. It's just people playing badminton. It is an ordinary scene, a scene of leisure. But at the same time, there's this huge black sun in front of them, next to them. And we also like the visual quality, the photographic quality in this image. We see that the photograph plays with the possibility of photography, of how light was captured, the difference between the parts of the image that are blurry, parts of the image that are clear, and there are a lot of different elements in this image. We see also architecture. We guess elements of architecture. We can say that it is also an image of how urban landscape are transformed at this time, even if the gas storage is from the 30s, but it is an image of this new urban landscape and how architecture transform the environment where people live. And we have even really unclear element. We have a fourth character that is practically invisible at the background, but it is here, and we don't know who it is, if it's a woman or a man, and what she's doing. And it's, as we said, there are different layers in the image, and we have to spend time to look at this photography to see through the different layers.
Also, in this particular photography, I can see the alienation of a single person, like facing the industrialization. But at the same time, as you said, the black sun metaphor, I also feel that there's some kind of anticipation of the space age and industrialization that is already a post-war nuclear bombs informed. So it's also kind of anticipation of the nuclear age. So yes, I really like these both images because they are rich, as you said, and we are very happy that you have chosen them for your cover because they're in the collections of the Slovak National Gallery. But I can understand why.
Yeah, and as you say, you said discovery, and it was something that we loved doing our research in the past 2 years, that we discovered a lot of images that we did not expect, and that that we want to share in the exhibition, to present and to share in the exhibition.
So we can't wait the opening of the exhibition, of course.
Yes. Thank you very much, Joanna and Jérôme. Thank you for presenting some features of your very complex project and for sharing your thoughts. I hope we will see each other live at the latest at the exhibition opening in May in Warsaw.
Yes.
And I also look forward to our discussions continuing in the near future.
Thank you, Lucia, for invitation
Lucia,
for conversations, and see you. I hopefully see you soon in Warsaw.
Yeah, thank you for the talk, and we are also very glad to see the show in Bratislava and to welcome you in Warsaw.
Thank you very much. And at the end of our talk, let me invite you to follow our project Akcja Z on the web of the Slovak National Gallery.